What's your hat? The North Fork River. Is that a bee on there or a wasp?
It's like a fly fishing
mosquito?
lure, I think, isn't it? Huh. Yeah, it's a lure.
Oh, okay. I see it there. Sorry, from back here. Is that where you were this weekend, North Fork?
Close.
Oh.
I got this in a little, that, what's it called? Oh, shoot, like Yoki's or something? It's that big, like, kind of gas station convenience mart there, right, where you come up to Seneca Rocks and you can turn left or right.
Mm. You know what Danielle and I did on Friday? I was supposed to be in court.
In court?
Yeah, to testify.
Yeah?
And I got bumped. It's tomorrow now.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a witness?
Yeah. Not exciting.
Are you the star witness?
I'm playing more of a prominent role in this than I should be. I'll say that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not.
As a former employer,
Yeah.
I know a little bit about this. So you were where you used to work. Something happened. We won't get into it unless you want to. But now, how many years later is this?
So it happened in 2017.
7 years later, you're finally getting to a court date.
Yeah.
From this old job.
Yeah.
And they've already deposed you.
Yeah. 2019, I went on the record with a deposition.
Wow.
And then COVID happened, and it got pushed and pushed and pushed. And then, maybe a month or two ago, last year, the attorneys reached out and was like, hey, are you still open to participating? We could use your witness statement. You're probably going to be called by the other side as well. I was like, yeah, it's weird. I've given this story to several people, a lot of people with law backgrounds, and some of them are like, oh, you have no obligation. You don't work there anymore. You haven't been accused of anything. Like, just, you're busy enough. It's kind of weird though. Like, some of the questions is about the department that I led, and I feel still very responsible for the actions that we took back then. I feel proud of the work that we did. And if someone's going to question what we did, I feel like I should defend that. Yeah, that's just, I stand by what I do professionally. So they asked about a year ago, and they said, we're probably going to settle, and then they didn't settle. And then they showed back up a month or two ago, and I have sat through some excruciating prep.
Wow. I mean, everything settles too. The chances that this makes it all the way to this point.
Yeah, it's been in court for a week. Like, we're halfway through a 2-week court session. Jury has been set. The witnesses have been called. Expert witnesses have been on the stand. Motions have been decided. Like, it is happening. Short of them settling tonight, I will be on the stand tomorrow.
Wow.
And
are you nervous?
Yeah. I mean, again, I've not been accused of anything. But there's been expert witnesses that have apparently said things that, like, our department could have done better, or there was not appropriate oversight or whatever. And so my job is to go there and defend what we did and how we did it and the purpose behind it. And so, yeah, I don't want to cause anyone harm, the business or the families involved. And so I feel a pressure there. Plus my memory, that was so long ago. I don't know. We tell ourselves stories, right? So I don't want to misremember things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been way more stressful than I anticipated it being. I've sat through hours of attorneys grilling me, acting like opposing counsel, and yeah. So it's kind of a wild situation. When we talk, at meetings for Village Caregiving about how important documentation is, how important it is to follow policies and procedures. You don't really think, 7-8 years later, you're going to be sitting on a witness stand going over something why did you document that? I'm like, hell, I don't know. I don't remember what happened, how that form got generated. You just do your best. And
yeah. Well, so when I say are you nervous, obviously this isn't about you.
Yeah.
But still, you're going to be up there having to make a appearance in front of a bunch of people, and by definition the other side is going to be trying to trip you up a little bit.
Sure.
Whatever the other side is. I mean, you don't have a vested interest really in it one way or the other, although I do hear you say you took pride in your department. But still, I mean, yeah. So some of your answers, they're going to ask things. I assume that where sometimes you're going to honestly just say, I don't remember that. And that's the moment where if you're just watching the TV show, you're like, oh, okay. Sure. But that's just life. Like that's just too long ago. I don't remember stuff I did 6 months ago, let alone 7-8 years. So
I'll say, I mean, I did that deposition 2019. They called me a year ago and asked if I remember the deposition. I remembered it. I remember things really well. Mm-hmm. I just have a great memory about certain things. And that I would pass a lie detector test. I remembered every question and every answer. I read that deposition. Half of those questions I'd never seen before. I had heard those questions and answered those questions on the record. Had no memory of it. My mind had just not held on to those pieces. So
it's amazing that you can see how much you actually change over that time too, because of just the words that you would use or the opinions you held. You ever go back and read really old emails you've written?
It's embarrassing.
It's painful.
Yeah.
Like, God, I can't believe I was saying that or acting like that. We're doing it today, too. We just haven't gotten to
Let's roll this thing back in about 5 years.
Right.
So, yeah. But, to relax, I was supposed to be in court on Friday. It ended up not. I got bumped because of an expert witness. And I told Danielle she was working from home that day, and she'd just finished up some audits. And I said, let's go to Fayetteville. And so, like a couple old people, we drove up to Fayetteville, hiked out to Long Point, went to Secret Sandwich, ate lunch, then took a cooler and 2 camp chairs down to the base of the bridge and just sat there and watched the river go by until dark. Watched the sunset, got back in the car and drove home. And it was lovely. We're so fortunate to be able to, I know, I was out in Fargo not long ago, and it's beautiful and a lot to do, and it's really a cool state to visit. But to be able to jump in the car and just run up to New River and park under the bridge and watch people were still rafting. It was so cold. So they're so stronger than I am. I had a blanket and a hoodie. These people are out in the water.
Yeah, and you're talking October. I've rafted in October in the New River. It's cold.
Yeah, boy, it was moving too. The water was up, but yeah, so that was nice. You had a pretty exciting time, right? You also was at one with the outdoors most recently.
Sure was. Sarah, my wife, as everybody knows, she's a ultra marathon trail runner. So there's one race up around Spruce Knob, which is the highest point in West Virginia, in the mountains, really, really remote. You don't have phone service for like an hour to get to it, and much less when you get there. So it's a 3-day race called the Trilogy. Cap tip to Adam Cassidy and Dan Lehman, who run the race, really great guys. Day 1 on a Friday, you run 50K. So that's about 31 miles.
Yep.
Day 2, you run 50 miles.
Now, this is all in the mountains. This isn't, we're not running along the beach here.
No, you're,
okay.
I mean, some of this is you're going straight up to Spruce Knob, which is 40-some hundred feet high, I think. Gosh, that's my West Virginia civics class.
That's fine.
I hope I remember.
You're close.
Right. And then day 3 is just sort of an easier cool down with a half marathon, which is still pretty challenging given those mountainous conditions. And she's a trooper, man. But yeah, we get up there and there's no hotels or anything like that. You're really out in the middle of nowhere. So we just put a air mattress in the back of her SUV and slept in there Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Use a cardboard box for your trash can all weekend, and there was a little bit of food, down at the little campsite that all the runners could go. And she did a great job. I hung out at some of the aid stations and volunteered. I did not run. You could have done it. You're in pretty good shape right now, aren't you?
Jeff, there's no physical way that I could have ran 100 miles through the mountains over a 3-day period.
Well, you could have done the half marathon day.
I could have survived it. I successfully, I don't know, but
I saw you do one this spring. Did well.
We've done some running, and it's that. But what she's doing over there is, it's called ultras for a reason. She's doing real next level competitive stuff, which is,
Yeah, the 50K, for example, the first day, it took her a little over 8 hours, I think. And then the 50-mile day, it's a whole nother beast. And then the coolest part was her friends like very, very close friends came. I had known about this for like 6 months. They wanted to be there at the race to surprise her and support her. And so one is from South Carolina, one is from Texas. They drove and flew in, and Sarah had no idea. So she crosses the finish line. There's like a great video of this on Facebook or whatever. And I take a picture of her crossing the finish line. She runs up, gives me a hug, and says hi to the race director, our buddy Dan. And then I was like, kind of lead her to side, like turn her sideways, and she sees her best friend, and she's like, "What the are you doing here?" And just starts bawling, crying. Yeah. It was an awesome moment. And then we got her again later that evening, or no, it was the next day. We after the race, we're back at the cabin they were staying in, and so then the friend from Texas pulls up to this cabin that they had a lodge kind of out in the woods, and Sarah's like, "Who in the world is that?" And I think her friend Jenny says, "Oh, it must be Bridget that runs the Airbnb or something." I think she said she was going to come by. So then here comes her other friend, Allie. And again, she's like, "Oh my God." Like starts crying and everything again. It was so freaking cool. That was when I said, okay, there's no more surprises. Like there's not going to be a puppy involved. There's nothing else. It was funny though. But no, it was a real special weekend. And
what if a puppy had accidentally come up to the cabin, and now you got to take this thing home because she thinks it's part of the surprise?
Did I tell you what? That night we got home on Sunday, the dog was staying somewhere else, obviously, and we had that house dog free, just to ourselves. It was so quiet. Oh, I don't think I can get another dog. She wants another dog.
Okay,
there's no way. I can't take the one hardly.
You're talking about Penny.
Just click, 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 all over the floor all the time.
You're lucky to have little Penny running around there.
Penny doesn't really pay any attention to me or care about me.
That says more about you than Penny.
She's attached to Sarah, and she's kind of a pouty dog.
I am not going to sit here and endorse you disparaging Penny's good name. She sent me flowers when I was in the hospital.
Well, that's true. She did do that.
Penny's one of my best friends.
That was her, greatest act of kindness ever. But she's generally only wants pepperoni from me, and that's about all I got.
I have to tell you about my time in Fargo.
Please do. You went with Brandon Stacy, correct?
I did. Yeah, I went with Brandon.
Okay, what'd you get into?
Well, okay.
I haven't heard any of this, by the way.
I know. No, we haven't really. We've been going different directions lately. So the only time we do the podcast is just for this purpose, just so we can catch up. So I was out in Fargo. We went out. I'd never been before. And the first, right off the bat, okay, we get to the airport, and I'm like, let's just Uber to the hotel, okay? That was not an option. All right,
Why?
We were a good 45-minute wait on an Uber ride. Yeah, there just was nothing available. And we were there at like 2:00 in the afternoon on a weekday. There's just
come on, Fargo,
dude,
airport.
People just drive themselves in Fargo. They do not rely on rideshare. I don't know what's up. I checked the app several. So I said, well, okay, that's not Ubering is obviously not going to work out well for us here. Yep. So let's just rent a car.
Okay.
So we stopped by the car rental desk and we asked this lady, like, hey, and she's like, oh yeah, I've got cars available. So we rent an SUV. She says to us, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now we'd already told her we were there for like 3 days. Okay. She says, okay, you can take this car to Canada. Do not take it to Mexico. We're like, oh, okay, no, we agree to those terms. That seems very fair. Can go to Canada, can't go to Mexico. So we talk a little bit more about the car, and she said, no, seriously, you guys can take this car to Canada. Do not take it to Mexico.
Right.
And we're like, okay, yeah, got it. No plans. Mexico, good. Get near the end of the checkout. She gives me a paper. I said, what's this paper for? She's like, it's you signing a paper that says you will not take this car to Mexico. I said, ma'am, how close are we to Canada? She said, you're 3 hours away. A lot of people rent a car and drive it to Canada. You can do that. Don't take it to Mexico. 4 times in a 5-minute conversation, she tells us, do not take this car to Mexico. So I turned to Brandon. I'm like, will you please look up and see how far from Mexico we are? Yeah. We were like 33 hours from Mexico, like some ridiculous amount. We still, to this day, if any listener knows what the deal is, why when you rent a car in Fargo, I've rented a ton of cars. They've never come with the disclaimer, do not take this vehicle to Mexico.
I wonder why she said that.
I don't know. She was there when we dropped the keys back off, okay? It was everything in me to not say, "Man,
God, you should have asked.
we messed up."
Like, did something happen?
We
What?
well, so we were
Has
talking about
anyone
this.
ever driven a Fargo vehicle to make? I'm going to ask ChatGPT this too. Watch this. Get some deets for you. Hold on. Kingsley, let me ask you a question. Why would the lady at the rental car counter in Fargo, North Dakota, make it such a big point to repeatedly tell my friend Aaron not to take the rental car to Mexico? She told him over and over that he could take it to Canada, but definitely do not take it to Mexico. It is a 33-hour drive. I don't understand why she would feel it was so necessary to keep telling him this. Give me an answer. Okay, let's see what we got.
Yeah,
That was a good input. See how that
that
detail
was
I gave?
fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. He says, it sounds like the lady at the rental car counter in Fargo was really serious about that Mexico thing. Here's my theory. She's probably dealt with more than one adventurous soul who thought, sure, let's just take a spontaneous road trip down to Mexico, even if it's 33 hours away. There could be rental car policies or legal reasons behind it, like insurance coverage differences between Mexico and Canada.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. But honestly, I think she might have just had some long-lost family member who once tried to make the epic Fargo to Mexico trek, and she's still traumatized by the story. Probably not wrong.
No, it would make more sense than what our theory was.
What was your theory?
That there's clearly some type of regulation around it, except they're no further or closer to Mexico than we are here. And I've rented 100 cars here for trips, and they've never told me don't take it to Mexico and don't sign this paper. So what we did decide was if you were, in fact, going to rent a car and take it to Mexico, signing that paper is not going to keep you from doing it, right? Because you're clearly already going to be in violation of some type of rule if you're leaving Fargo for Mexico. But we decided not to make the joke to her.
What company was it?
It was Hertz Rental.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
call
And
the
figure out,
Hertz counter and ask them why they would hammer
like,
that
what's
so
up
hard.
with this?
You
Yeah.
want me to do it right now?
No, I don't think right now. But Fargo was awesome. We had a we had a great time. We did the ribbon cutting out there with the Fargo Moorhead South Fargo Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Had an excellent turnout. You know, they did something I've never had happen before at one of these.
What?
After they had me do my speech, the local news station was there. I got on the local news. That was pretty wild.
Put you in a dunk tank.
No, at the end, I turn it back over to them, and they said, "Okay, now it's time for the Q&A."
Oh, wow.
They did not prep me for the Q&A. And also at one of these are all ambassadors to the chamber, right? These are all business professionals in the general area.
Sure.
You're not really thinking. Hands immediately start going up. And I'm like, oh, no. And, you know, to be completely transparent, I don't know a lot about the physical office at most of these places.
Who was in the crowd to ask these questions?
Local,
Community members or politicians, news?
So they're chamber ambassadors. So a person from the bank is there, a person from the hospital is there, a person from fair housing is there, a person from this place and from that place.
Okay, how'd it go?
Well, it went really good. So let me hit you with this, all right? I see these hands go up. I'm buying a second at a time to get my mind right. Like, God, what could they ask? And I said, all right, this may answer the first question. I always get this. No, I did not do the voiceover for Forrest Gump. And yeah, we're in Fargo. I clearly sound like I'm from West Virginia. So that got the crowd laughing. Okay.
Good. That's a good opener.
Yeah. And so I got some questions like, hey, what areas do you cover? Hey, one lady just raised her hand. Was like, my mom lives north of here by about 45 minutes. She really needs help. How would I get them in touch with you? Those sorts of things. One gentleman I end up looking him up. He's been with the chamber for years and years and years. He raises his hand and I call on him and he says, I don't have a question. I have a statement.
Oh.
And he turns around to the crowd and he says, home care will save everyone here a bunch of money because it lowers medical costs for seniors. And he turns around to me and he says, to quote the great King, and then he goes into a Elvis Presley, thank you very much, with a hip and a point. Again, totally unexpected. I'm on the local news. So I'm like, you're welcome. I don't know, but who I was thinking, if it was the king or if I was just thinking this gentleman, because he fully embodied Elvis Presley for the thank you very much.
Huh. Well, he's right.
I know.
And a nice guy to show up and give a compliment like that.
It was wonderful.
Must be an Elvis fan.
Yeah, I assumed I got some things out of that. Huge cake, big ribbon. It was kind of funny. You know, things happen at Village Caregiving. They get us all lined up out there to do the ribbon cutting. They got the big pair of scissors. They unspool the ribbon, and they only have about 3 foot of ribbon on the spool. Someone didn't check. So we all kind of have to if you look at the picture, we all kind of squeeze in together and you do the fake cut for the picture, then you do the real cut.
Yeah.
And they're like, do not cut this. We have no more ribbon. But man, it was great in Moorhead, Minnesota, which if you don't know, Fargo and Moorhead are on the state line. The Red River runs between them. And so 5 minutes from the office is Moorhead, Minnesota. And inside Moorhead, Minnesota, there is the Dairy Queen that created the what's the ice cream treat? The
Blizzard?
No, the ice cream with the chocolate around on the stick. The
Dairy Queen made it?
Yeah. The Dilly Bar.
Dilly Bar.
The Dilly Bar, yeah. This place, back in I read the story, back in the 1960s, the guy that owns that Dairy Queen is trying to come up with new ideas to put on the menu. And they're like, well, let's freeze some of the soft serve ice cream, dip it in chocolate, put a tongue depressor on it. And it took off. And now they sell them at every Dairy Queen in the world. And right there is where it was created. So we're driving by it. The local executive director, Deidre Wehunt, says, oh, that's the Dairy Queen that created the Dilly Bar. I'm like, well, what? I'm like, whip around. We just finished lunch. We go around there. I'll send pictures. There's a massive, the world's largest Dilly Bar statues outside, and it's not the ones that you get. Like if you went to the local Dairy Queen here, you're going to get the commercial one. These are still hand dipped. You can only get them there. Unbelievable.
Are you talking about just the normal old popsicle so you could get at the market that's just it's kind of got the elongated semicircle? Oh no, that's not at all what I was thinking. I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen that? Do you know what he's talking about?
The Dilly Bar?
Hunter's never seen it. Spencer has.
Yeah.
Austin. Gosh. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, buddy.
They also, in Moorhead, if you Google things to do in Fargo, the Red River Zoo has America's only red pandas. That's a thing.
I love red pandas. They're the cutest little fellas ever. God, Hunter and I are simpatico today.
Yeah. So, you guys are on it. There's the Dilly Bar experience at Dairy Queen. And then there is this massive Viking ship on display.
Okay, it's Minnesota.
Yeah, a guy from Moorhead had a dream of building a Viking ship and selling it from Minnesota to Norway. And he did it. And this is it. They got the ship.
What turned out Norway didn't want it? I mean, how did they end up there?
No, that was just the goal. And so they have a museum dedicated.
He made it, but he couldn't sell it to him. Yeah,
no, not actually the wind sail. SAIL.
Oh, he wanted to sail it to Norway.
Yes, he took it across the Great Lakes and into the ocean, and then across the ocean, and then they received him over there. Him and a crew.
He made it?
Yes.
In that thing?
Yes.
I don't believe this. That's preposterous. There are people that can't even make it 90 miles from Cuba to Florida across the straits for their lives. This guy sailed that piece of ship. Well, I don't want to call it a piece of junk. It must be remarkable.
Look at it.
He did not take that from Minnesota. Put a picture of that up there.
I will.
That guy sailed that from Minnesota to Norway. Do you know how far that is? The Titanic couldn't make it. I don't believe this. I'm fact checking everything you've said so far. I'm calling that Hertz. I'm going to call him right now, as a matter of fact. What's this?
In Fargo?
Yep. And then I'm going to call that museum.
Located in Fargo, North Dakota. If you need emergency roadside assistance for your vehicle,
don't need
please
that.
Press 1. If you would like to make a reservation, press 2 or visit hertz.com.
Maybe.
For the Hector Airport location, please
that's
press 3.
That's what we're doing. Hector Airport, that's where you flew into? Hector, that's what they call it?
Hector International.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, shoot. I accidentally hit 3 twice the first time. 33. I hope they're not too...
Hertz at the Fargo Airport. How can I help you?
Hey, a bit of an odd question, but I just was hoping you might have an answer. My buddy rented a car there like 2-3 weeks ago, and the lady at the counter was really insistent upon him not taking the car to Mexico. She said, you can take it to Canada, but you can't take it to Mexico, and made this a point like 3 or 4 times. He signed the don't take it to Mexico paper. I'm just honestly trying to do some research. Like, what is the big concern about taking it to Mexico? I'm not trying to be funny or anything. Just
I think the main thing is that cars just don't come back when they go there. I think there's just been a couple experiences to where they just haven't came back.
Right. So a couple of jokers thought, hey, we're going to drive all the way across America, and then they couldn't get the car back.
Yeah, like they just steal the car.
Oh,
much.
gosh. I gotcha. All right. Well, thanks for
I mean,
your...
I've never had it like happen while I've worked here. It's just what I've heard.
Gotcha. Well, we were sitting here, we're filming a podcast, and I was like, I want to know the actual answer to why that would be that big of a concern. So we figured it was probably somebody had done it one time before or something like that.
I think that's what it is, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, not much to it, but I think that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Thanks. Have a good day. Thanks for letting me bug you.
Yeah, you too. Thank
All right.
you.
See you.
Okay.
Somebody's done this a time or two.
Yeah. So I'm right. I've cleared that up.
Okay.
Now,
There's no way I believe this guy sailed
Thank you
it.
for calling the Umcom Center. For museum hours and tours and exhibit information, press 1. For Michelle Griffin with room rentals, building information, and building maintenance, press 2. For Holly Heitkamp, building manager, press 3. Thank you for calling the Umcom Center. For museum hours and tours and exhibit information.
They got to be open right now. It's a Monday
Thank you
afternoon.
for calling the Umcom Center. For museum hours and tours and exhibit information.
Here we go. We're getting somewhere now. Come on. We might be able to just search this on the internet.
oh, I searched it.
Get confirmation that it went to Norway.
Yes. In 1982,
You looked it up already. Spencer's nodding. Oh, no.
before returning home to Minnesota, it made it to Norway, 1982.
Who confirmed that in Norway? God, the locals are getting restless outside. You hear these horns honking? What is going? I'm going to look out the window. Hold on a minute. See if you can get them on the phone.
I don't think we need to call them anymore. We've independently confirmed this.
Man, there's a crazy guy out here swinging his shirt around his head.
Is this the guy that originally had his shirt too long earlier? Oh.
I don't know.
Well,
I think he was waving a car on through, and the guy got mad and started just holding the horn down at him
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
so Fargo, we've cleared everything up. I showed you pictures of the largest dilly bar statue.
Yeah.
The Viking ship has been confirmed. You've confirmed. I mean, I'm not making any of this stuff up. This was my experience in Fargo.
You had some moments. Okay.
Yeah.
You got me.
Yeah.
You turned it around.
So it was, I mean, we had a great time though, but it was the turnout was awesome for the ribbon cutting. Fargo again is just village caregiving. It's so weird. We can become part of the community and the community can become so familiar. We went to a place, it was a restaurant downtown and it was named after a president. I'm trying to get their first name of a president. See if you
Herbert
can-
Hoover.
No.
That's around Minnesota. I mean,
Yeah. No. Who was the president that put prohibition in place?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy. It was Teddy's.
His national forest is there in North
Yeah,
Dakota.
so it was Teddy's was the name of it, and it was just a restaurant downtown. And on the menu for that day, their like main thing was like open faced turkey, right? So
Yeah.
turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, all that stuff. Very, that's what we eat here in Appalachia. So
Right.
I ordered it, and Deidre ordered it, and it was delicious. And we talked about it. And I mentioned that the next day during the speech to the chamber folks was that like it's so weird that just coming here to work at Village Caregiving Ashland and seeing how that became part of the Ashland community. And Yates and Laney were on last week talking about that, that office has been open 6 years now. And all the people we took care of and the way that Village Caregiving became part of that community and remains. an integral part. If village caregiving ceased to exist in Ashland today, there would be 100 people without a job, and there would be 70 to 100 clients that wouldn't have caregivers, right? I mean, it's a vital part of that community now. I see that now happening in Fargo, and we just have found a way within these communities, and Fargo is way different. It's thousands of miles away, different culture, different way of living. But it just makes sense. It still works. Like, we treat people really well. We're compassionate, and we're passionate about what we do. It's just a really neat thing to be able to travel out to these locations and see that, like, the communities look different, they act different, they feel different, but it still works, and we still become a part of that community. So that's been a cool thing to be able to do. That's the furthest, to my knowledge, I've traveled with village caregiving, and I was thankful to do it. The grand openings are always fun, anyway. So
yeah, so much of what we need as humans. And there have been a lot of studies on this type of stuff, like compare the same exact human essential needs and emotions, whether you're in Fargo or West Virginia or in Indonesia or in remote jungles where they really have no touch with civilization, and so much. It's just anthropological. I mean, we need connection. We need social interaction. We need love. We want to feel part of a group, etc. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me that it translates everywhere we go. If you treat people the right way and you act with caring and do the things that we always try to do. Fargo, though, whenever Sarah and I during COVID took a just road trip all over America because you couldn't really do anything else, and slept in a tent sometimes. We talked about this, but anyway, Fargo was like my favorite city we stopped in, and it actually did remind me a good deal of here. It was sort of a blue collar-ish feel. They had a smaller university, North Dakota State, which is like the top of the crop, smaller football school. They've won tons of national championships, just like Marshall had done. A lot of the food items, like you say, they kind of remind you of each other. The people were really nice. Our climates are a bit different, but there were so many connections that I felt. That's what I told people in Fargo. I was like, this reminds me of where I live in West Virginia almost as much as anywhere I've ever been.
They're very heavy on natural resources there. Their downtown, even their historic downtown, the Fargo Theater kind of looks like the Paramount Theater in Ashland.
Yep.
Like, there's just a lot of similar vibes there. And the people are just, I mean, they really care about each other. And, man, it's a really cool town. It's super clean, and a lot of new stuff there. A lot of new investment in that market.
I want to go back.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
I want to go see Deidre too. She's done a great job. I called her last week because she had accumulated the most activity logs for her entire region, and I just wanted to say thanks and great work.
Yeah.
I need to get up there.
It's
just hard, man.
Yeah, it is. No. Especially to rent a car. They have a like, how we have pull behind campers here.
Yeah.
Well, they have ones that sit on the ground. They have hydraulics. They sit on the ground. They look just like regular campers, but they're ice buildings. They're ice fishing campers. They drag them out to the middle of the lake, and then little panels come out of the floors, and they sit on the couches in these things, and they fish out of there. Said the fishing rod's only this long. And I said, do the kids, she's got a couple boys. I'm like, do the kids like to go? She's like, oh yeah, they like to go. I said, gosh, do you eat the fish? She's like, no, we don't. My husband likes to eat the fish, so we don't eat the fish. I was like, oh geez, what's the most fish you think you've ever caught? And she's like, I think she said something like 250.
In one day?
Yeah. And we're like, oh my God. And she's like, yeah, it's so many that like you can't even enjoy it. Like, you're just constantly just pulling fish out. I'm like, well, what's like the worst day? How do you know that you're over the right spot on the hole with that? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, probably the worst day, probably like 60 or 70.
Man, everything you're saying is blowing my mind. Yes. They don't ever go out and have a day where you don't catch anything?
That's what she said. And I said, when you drive, like, because they're not from there, right? I said, when he drives, her husband drives his big truck out that's big enough to pull this camper out onto that lake for the first time.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that ice is popping and cracking and making noise. She's like, actually, last year it didn't get super cold and the ice was a little questionable. So there's people that you can pay to drive your rig out there. I'm like, man, you all live a different life. She said that if the kids live within a mile and a half of the school, they have to walk or be dropped off. They can't depend on the bus. And so they have like -20 wind temperatures like throughout the winter there. These people are just living different lives than me.
Could you imagine if it wasn't that cold and you weren't sure about the ice, driving your pickup truck out there and hearing it cracking under you?
With a camper hooked to the back of
Dude,
it.
I would build myself like an ejector seat with a cut the roof out. Like you'd see me go flying up in the air like Indiana
First time
Jones.
it popped.
Yes. If it were going down, throw me straight up.
Yeah, no, they just live it out there. Yeah.
Wild stuff. Well, I wonder if you don't catch that many, I don't suppose, in the summertime. Maybe that's the whole point of why ice fishing is so popular, because the fish are starved for food. There's not as much naturally occurring in the water, so you throw something down there and they're going to get a swarm.
Yeah.
That could all be 100% wrong.
I think it's good information.
I'm not going back to Kingsley for the answer to that, by the way. But I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, maybe that's because it is a very obviously where it's a cultural phenomenon. They love ice fishing and stuff, but maybe that's part of it. You can catch whatever you want.
Well, so this podcast is going to air not too long before the big annual meeting in early December, right? I mean, we're just going to be, by the time this thing hits air, which we recorded a little bit early.
4 weeks from now, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be like looking at each other in sunny Florida in the middle of West Virginia winter.
I hope it's sunny down there.
Oh, it'll be sunny.
Watch, it'll come some kind of an awful cold snap.
Big winter cold snap in Florida. Put the jackets on. Well, that's okay. We'll still have a good time. What I know about village caregiving is when we're all together, we have a good time no matter what the weather's doing.
We're going to work in the meantime
until
this airs to make some good company events.
Some big things are happening.
Yeah. Coordinated, have fun together, maybe spouse, family included, sort of, we're around Disney anyway. I think Andrew's already talked about that.
Yeah. I think, this may be breaking news, but I think this is going to be the first event that we're actually going to take the kids to.
Really?
Yeah. So Pierce and Emma may be in person. So this will be a big deal. They've come to a lot of local stuff. We've never taken them out, though. But I think we've got it worked out where they're going to be able to join us. So.
Probably true for quite a few people, I would imagine.
It'll be fun. We had, in a couple of our recent meetings, we've had some families at those meetings. People travel up and just kind of make the weekend out of it. We end up running into them in the hotel or maybe even at a dinner. And it's so awesome to get to meet people's families, right? Like I just love these folks, and I love to get to know them and hear about them. Deidre's son lost his green light card while he was out riding his electric scooter, and a Good Samaritan found it. Couldn't figure out who he was, but he had a picture of a jersey. So this Good Samaritan drove it across town to that place where the jersey was. They called her while we were there. And I said, do you think he knows it? And she's like, no. So a couple days later, I just had to know. I called her. I was like, so what? And she did the worst mom thing ever. She said, hey, where's your green light card? He's like, it's in my room. She's like, you care to go get it? I wanted to see it. Knowing she had it in her pocket the whole time. If that isn't a mom, Danielle would do that 9 out of 9 times. I would have too, though. But anyways, no, it'll be fun to see everyone. I'm excited about it. It should be a good time.
Well, me too. It's always the recharge that lasts for a few months at least. Are we going to do podcasts down there in Orlando like last year? I think we are. Austin says, yeah. That's why we got what?
We got those boxes.
Oh, yeah.
The box.
Man.
Oh, these. Okay. Is it really?
Man, the night before podcast was hot last year. I mean,
people were dropping in. We got to get that one going again.
Yeah.
That was fun.
People in and out. People on the street looking through windows trying to figure out who was in there.
Well, we look like celebrities sitting
that
there,
had
don't
to
we?
be it. Yeah, that had to be it.
Really, if we put us out with some microphones, we're dressed up. We got on some suit jackets.
Yeah.
In a hotel with lights around us. So you're going to get looks.
Yeah.
They're going to think, who is that down there? That must be.
Yeah.
What's the podcast you like? The Sean Hayes and Jason Bateman and Will Arnett.
Yeah.
By the way, they had a huge feature in the New York Times last Sunday about how these 3 actors have made a seriously legit podcast empire media company and that might become the thing that their greatest achievement, what they're known for. Forget all the acting stuff.
It's pretty wild, some of these guys that get into stuff, and that's the only way that the next generation is going to know them. They're not going to know them from their movies or from their work. They're going to know them because I was thinking that Reba has a new show coming out, and I saw the advertisement for it this morning on the morning news, and I was like, there's going to be a bunch of people that like that show that have no idea that this woman sings for a living, and like how she even got because the last couple pieces of work that she's done has been shows, and so she's kind of rebranded herself as a television personality instead of a country music singer, which is wild. And I wonder, like, when they go back and they're like, wait, she sings. You think like Paul Abdul, some of those like American Idol judges, I didn't remember them as performers. I remembered them as judges. And so I'm curious if that happens as well. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, man.
Yep.
It's been nice catching up with you.
What are you going to do tonight? What's for dinner? You going to go home and eat at home? You going to go out?
I'm going to be eating whatever concession stand at junior high soccer is. We have 2 games left, tonight and tomorrow night.
How's the season going?
It's went well.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. The kids have improved. They've been very competitive.
Well, what do you get at that concession stand? Hot dog?
Usually popcorn. Yeah, it's high school kids that make
That's your whole dinner?
No, I'll eat when I get home after that, but it's just probably going to be like a ham sandwich or something tonight.
Popcorn and ham sandwich.
Bill and Brenda made Thanksgiving dinner last night at their house.
What?
Full blown. I have no idea what was up. It was unbelievably delicious.
Dude, we forgot to do our Friendsgiving.
Yeah, I know.
What happened? We just started traveling and forgot. I just forgot. I haven't thought about it until right now.
I think summer just got away.
We had a turkey, remember?
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, it feels too close to Thanksgiving now to do it.
Right. It's basically here.
Yeah.
Well, we could do it still.
I'm not complaining about it.
We'll come over tomorrow or Wednesday or something.
Well, Wednesday would be better. I have, soccer tomorrow.
All right. I'll talk to Sarah about it.
Okay. Well, cheers.
Hi to Bill and Brenda. Nice Thanksgiving. Cheers.